I feel like there should be some fanfare music. Maybe I'll find some and insert it. It's time, my ShootTuber friends. I am walking you through the last 3 stages of the 2017 IPSC World Shoot. For those of you who are new here, I'm Julie Golob, a pro shooter sharing shooting sports on the www. I'll leave a link to the previous videos in this series so you can learn more about my guns, gear, as well as a bit about the sport of practical shooting and the previous stages of this 30-stage World Championships. Without further delay, hubbub, or anything else, we, my friends, are in Oceania, area green, and heading towards stage 9, the long course of the day at 27 rounds. This one featured 10 paper, 3 poppers, and 4 mini poppers, so a good amount of steel, but all stationary targets. You could begin anywhere in the shooting area, and there was a single low port on the right side of the range. Before we shot this stage, I had an absolute fluke thing happened. I was talking with my squaddies, Maggie Reese-Voigt and John McClain, when all of a sudden a honeybee flew into my mouth and stung my tongue. Yes, it stung my tongue. Yes, it hurt, and yes, it immediately started to swell up. It was so not fun, and I won't lie, I was a little panicky, paranoid at this point that I would have some sort of bizarre allergic reaction that I'd never had before and I wouldn't be able to finish the match. No, I was in such a good place. All I needed to do was finish. All these years chasing World Shoot Gold and to be denied by a bee. Oh, my poor tongue was very swollen, but thankfully after ice, it was going down a bit. So even though I shot the stage feeling like my tongue didn't fit in my face, I was so happy to be okay. Funny thing, I love bees, especially honeybees. If I had a spirit animal, it would be a bee. And maybe one day I'll let you know why. Let me know if you'd like to know. But I approached these last 3 stages with a grateful heart. Stage 9 was one of those wide open stages that can seem a little overwhelming. I like to approach these by finding all the targets first and identifying what I can see from where. After that, I can work on batching targets into arrays that work with my division's round count. If you haven't guessed it by now, I generally prefer to move from left to right and end up in low positions. There are exceptions to this, but for this stage, that is exactly how I planned my run. I opted to start on the left side of the shooting area, set up in front of the array that I could see from this position. Makes sense, right? I chose to shoot the steel first and sweep outward so as to avoid pulling off that steel and doing the dreaded popper shuffle where you have to jump back and forth and take the makeups, and yeah, so not fun. After that, it was a reload and run up to the pointy part, technical term there, of the shooting area for what I could see from this position. I'd sweep the targets as I could see them from left to right, taking extra time on the first 2 because of that sneaky no-shoot popper stuck in between the 2 poppers there. Another reload, I found a little sweet spot that allowed me to batch some targets, popper 3, T8, popper 2, and then with a slight shift, I could shoot the stacked targets T5 and T6. One final load and drop into a very low position to shoot up at T9 and 10, and that would be it. Anytime I have a stage with a lot of running on gravel, I think about being light on my feet. Gravel can make it very easy to slip or very hard to stop, and I did not want to take a spill at this point in the match. It's a delicate balance between wanting to haul and the desire not to fall. So let's see how it went.
Are you ready? Stand by.
24 Alpha, 3 Charlie in a time of 32.43. I was very happy with this run. It was a second place finish among the women, just edged out for the stage win behind Grace Tamayo, and we finished 29th and 30th respectively. For such a big run and gun stage, I was very happy to be in the top 30 overall on this one. At this point, I could see that Grace was really putting on the moves, and she was definitely pushing and taking some risks. And watching her shoot on our last stage compared to the other days, yeah, it was really fun. I won't lie, I felt that pull to crush. But with just 2 stages left, that bout with the bee, control over crush was my motto. Next up, stage 10, the last short course of the World Shoot. It was a very straightforward stage with just 7 rounds, 2 paper, and 3 mini poppers. Start anywhere in the box and shoot 'em as you see 'em. This one was all about position work and trusting those sights, calling your shots. The way the barriers were set up, it was critical to really choreograph your footwork so that you'd end up exactly where you needed to be in order to see the targets. I chose to set up on the left, right where I could see the first mini popper, and with a transition to the hard right, engage the target through the opening. After that, it was a move to the center for the second steal. I didn't find the stage to be a perfect mirror with the exact same sweet spot on the right side where you could seamlessly batch steel with paper with a wide transition. So for this position, I set up for the paper target and then took a big step with a lean for the final mini popper. Unlike a lot of other stages that use kind of mesh walls that you can see through, these were not transparent and there wasn't a whole lot of wiggle room in these openings. You also had to call your shots, as I mentioned before. If these had been big poppers especially, you couldn't just assume a hit if you heard that audio feedback on the steel. Just nicking that steel, if it had been a big popper, you could have left one standing very easily. Now, in this course of fire, they were mini poppers, so the odds are in your favor if you still have a rim hit, but still, you have to call those shots and not just rely on what you hear. Here's my run.
Stand by.
Very, very happy with this stage. Down 1 Charlie in a time of 10.43 seconds. Marley Martir of the Philippines, wow, she pulled out all the stops on this one on our final day and ended up running it in almost 2 seconds faster. And now, just 1 stage left. It was a medium course of fire with 8 targets and 4 steel pepper poppers, 20 rounds of shooty goodness with a free start anywhere inside the shooting area. A very straightforward stage and the perfect one to end on because I was feeling all the feels at this point. All I needed to do was finish and not get disqualified. My plan was to start at the center where you had to be, just standing like a normal human as the start position. Then at the buzzer, I'd step and lunge to the right to nab T8 on the right. It was the only place to shoot T8, and instead of going deep into that position to shoot another target, I felt that this was better. After that target, it was a transition and moved to the back left to shoot T1 and T2. I planned my reload as I moved forward to shoot P3 and T3 on the left, then moved to the opening on the right for T7, P4, and T6. The last reload of the match, and advancing up, I had just 4 targets left, 2 paper, 2 steel, to shoot from the left to the right. Here's how it went.
Stand by.
Yeah, this was by no means my smoothest stage in the match. I dumped a shot at the beginning and needed a makeup on paper in my second position. I also threw in an extra reload between the third and fourth position. I was so determined to get everything done, get all my hits. It was my last stage, and I did not want a miss on the last stage of the last day of potentially my last world shoot. As it was, I still shot for Charlie, and my time was a bit slower at 22.20 seconds, putting me fourth among the women, with Grace and Marley finishing 1 and 2 on this one again. They were just going for it, and it was a little humbling, but at the same time, my run wasn't catastrophic. It wasn't horrible. It was actually just okay, considering everything that was going on in my head and in my heart. Now, it was a matter of verifying scores and waiting for results to become final. I did everything I could. If gold wasn't in my future, I know I gave it my best. I tailored my season to prepare for IPSC instead of focusing on wins in USPSA. I spent time at the gym and on the range making sure my guns, gear, mind, and body were in the best shape they could be. I gave it my all. I remember the feeling when I knew I put it all together and getting ready to drive home to an empty house because my housemates were at the hospital. Rob Latham wasn't even able to finish the match. He'd been admitted, and as you can imagine, Kippy was with him, so there was no celebration to come home to. At the same time, I also couldn't wait to call home, talk to my husband and my girls, and share with them the news. And as I was driving, there was the most beautiful rainbow, and it seemed to end right at our chateau and condo. I snapped a couple pictures, and I'm coming home to the end of the rainbow. Isn't that amazing? Wow. It was such a beautiful, perfect ending to a long week, and it finally happened. IPSC World Champion. Between the bee, the rainbow, the entire journey to get here, I can do all this through him who gives me strength. Next up is a video from the shoot off. If you enjoyed this one, please like and share with your friends and family and anybody else who might enjoy it in this series. I'll leave the playlist linked below as well. And as always, be safe, have fun, and live your life fully loaded.